Chapter 246 Chun Mumun Master 1. That war, without a doubt, was a war that was never before seen. Nyahaha. Attack. Rip apart everyone who comes into horse feed. Uo. Follow General Sword Princess. Before the touch of dawn could reach them, the Oni ran across the cold ground. The Oni didn't need cavalry. Their bodies were their only force. Just rushing forward recklessly with the horns on their heads pointed forward was no different from a cavalry charge. Charge! Charge! Chop off the fat of all those arrogant pig bastards! The Oni rushed over, covering the horizon in dust. They were like a train as they raced across the battlefield where a burqa had planted a mountain peak like a decoration. On the other side, the goblins were still. Like moles hiding in the ground, not even the sound of breathing could be heard. Dash! 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 The goblins remained infinitely calm even as thousands of Oni charged towards them. Occasionally, the young warriors' fingers would twitch as if they were nervous, but no one criticized their immaturity. Everyone, get ready. The chairman of the Fire River Council of this era spoke. There was as much anticipation in his eyes as in the molars that could be seen through his beard from time to time. We are. Everyone is ready, Chairman. Even as they chatted, the thousands of charging Oni, who grew closer by the minute, shouted. Today is the day the hegemony on the continent changes. The goblin race. Ignorant people who only waste their lives away dancing. Today is the day that our Oni race, who breathe the air of the sky and feel the rhythm of the earth, will gain hegemony. Long live the Oni race. As much as 9,000. A race full of people with capable bodies charged forward as they roared. Their momentum was as fierce as a ferocious storm like a blizzard or tsunami. Their guardian pulled out a mountain. At the head of the group, the 7 Oni heroes were running together like the tip of the spear. Then we'll pierce that mountain. At the same time, aura shot forth from a pair of twin swords, a scythe, a spear, a single sword, and an iron rod that was too long to be a staff. And exploded. Boom! The mountain peak in the middle of the battlefield split in two. In this way, a railway was formed. The Oni ran as one long train. Of course, it was the 7 heroes that formed the head. The huge train of 9,000 troops crashed into the goblins' front line. The goblins' formation was as hard as a turtle shell. But the Oni's penetrating power was even more so. Boom! A roar that would never have been imagined to be a collision between 2 groups of people resounded. What happened next was closer to the collapse of a geographical feature than a formation. You go. At that moment, my family members, who were looking down at the battlefield, expressed surprise in their own ways. I think you said they were the Oni race and Chun Mumun Master. Their penetrating power is higher than I expected. My advisor, Estelle, who had led the Devil King army, said. The mountain peak that warrior commander Aburka threw had already become a component of the battlefield, so the goblins camped on both sides. But the Oni directly broke through the mountain peak to reach the center and catch the goblins off guard. That was right. Like a beast whose heart had been pierced from the first strike, the goblins' formation was struggling. However, it's fine. I had taught the goblin kids about fire for thousands of years. I taught them knowledge. I taught them how to emblaze, and I taught them how to play with it. Cave fire. Alpha. Even at the bottom of the dark cavern of the snails, the goblins never let go of fire, blessing the living with fire and honoring the dead with fire. And I taught them how to dance. By spreading fire with the body by dancing, I easily changed the minds of the fire-loving goblins to that of dance-loving goblins. 0. The dance was fire, and all those who danced were one fire. Tapik. As a result. Tuck. The goblin's formation collapsed. It was torn down, but that was not the end. Instead, it was the beginning, more like blossom than collapse. Tapik. Tuck. Tapik. Tuck. The goblins didn't resist the Oni's charge. If they pushed, they stepped back, and if they tried to strike, they tore apart. However, in the process, they shook their waists up and down and kicked the ground. Tapik, tapik, tapik. The warriors lined up on either side of a person stomped and kicked the ground. Tapik, tapik, tapik. Like a burning flame, the tuck sound of their footsteps spread from one unit to the unit next to them, then to the unit above, and even to the units far away, quickly spreading to the entire camp. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. The battlefield was filled with the footsteps of thousands of troops. As they stomped their feet, the goblins wrapped themselves in aura. As a result, their footsteps were not stopped by the boulders of the mountain peak, nor bounced off the maple trees, and instead became flames that flowed to the bottom of the world. Wadash, what's going on? The Oni were confused. Shit. What the hell are they doing? Why aren't they collapsing? Like a tough leather bag, the goblins accepted all of the Oni's charges, accepted the vibrations from the impact, and digested them. I couldn't help but admire. Then, I was consumed by a strange happiness. They completed it, the infernal heavens formation. An idea that had miraculously come to me one day. If not just one person used the infernal heavens demonic art, but several hundreds, or even thousands of people used it at once, I had a feeling that there would be new unexplored possibilities. So I created a skill for the first time. Plus. Infernal heavens formation. Rank, undetermined. Effect, this is a formation made based on the infernal heavens demonic art. This formation embodies an image shared by the casters. The more casters that participate in the formation, and the more proficient the casters are in the infernal heavens demonic art, the clearer the image shared, and the stronger the power of the formation. This formation has not been proven to be effective. You are the one that created this skill. It is up to you to showcase the potential of the infernal heavens formation. When enough data has been collected, the rank and description of the skill will be revised. Currently, the skill level is undetermined. The infernal heavens demonic art had no lack of defeating the great forces in the world. Since that was the case, if the infernal heavens demonic art were to be improved and utilized by a group, how formidable of a power would they be able to exert? That's why I taught Aberka the infernal heavens demonic art. My thoughts wandered. Those wandering thoughts reached my heart and subsided after becoming happiness. Aberka spread the infernal heavens demonic art to the warriors of that era. The infernal heavens demonic art became an orthodox sword technique of the goblin race. And I spread, using aura to perform a play or dance, to the kids. For the warriors of the goblin race, aura was the infernal heavens demonic art. All the plays that unfolded on the stage were intermingled with the infernal heaves demonic art, and as the number of actors increased to 3, 6, 18, and so on, an increasing number of infernal heavens demonic arts were embroidered on the stage. It's natural. The audience were mesmerized by the cave fire plays. Their hearts pounded. On the stage, they were quiet guests, but off the stage, they were powerful warriors like their fellow compatriots. The warriors, the goblin race, considered the fire plays to be the most beautiful when they were unfolded in the world instead of on the stage. Although I provided the opportunity, I let those kids have fun and discover it for themselves. The goblin warriors had incorporated the cave fire plays into the army. Adjust the beat, fine-tune the melody. With just that, the aura is amplified. However, the important thing was for all the warriors to paint the same picture in their heads. They filled the picture of the story of the white lion, which Aburka had passed down like a legend. The white lion. Our God. Our friend. The one who watches over us. The one who showed us the sights he saw while wandering the world, the burning mansion, the destroyed snowfield, the broken heart in the mirror, had all been stuck in the minds of the goblins since childhood. You. Therefore, they sang. You. You. You go. The footsteps hadn't stopped. Carried by aura, the footsteps filled the plains, and the sharp cries of the goblins echoed above it. Raising their heads to the sky, the goblins howled like wolves. And so. The resounding footsteps blocked the ground, and the echoing cries blocked the sky. You go. You go. You go. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. The ground and sky of the battlefield had been blocked. The light of the sun at dawn bounced off the rough curtain of aura, and it could no longer cast its cool light. The plains that the Oni had rushed into was enveloped in pure darkness. A fluttering shadow descended upon the Oni. Naya. The sword princess, who was at the front, was the first to notice the anomaly. What is this? Magic, no, aura. Bastard, did thousands of people raise a tent at the same time? What a pointless waste of aura. If you thought this would be enough to surprise us, then you're wrong. The 7 heroes urged their subordinates. Don't panic. It's just a bit of darkness in front of your eyes. There is no damage. They're just trying to scare by pretending to be cool. We killed at least 20% with this charge. Just keep attacking like this. We are at an advantage. If they struggle to not be torn apart, scratch the inside. The Oni tried to answer to the voice of the 7 heroes. However, thud, thud, the footsteps steadily grew, and the widening shadow enveloped them. This is like. Feeling the ominous energy, an Oni warrior muttered. It feels like being in a cave rather than on a plain. The momentum of the charge dwindled to a halt. The roars were no longer those of attack and slaughter, but instead became reflexive cries to counteract the ominous feeling. Tubuk. Suddenly, the warrior realized that the feeling of the ground they stepped on had changed. Dash, wood? A little while ago, the Oni had been stepping on the bare ground. It was rough and there were stones rolling around which would make them fall if they were not careful. But now, the feeling of the ground that they were stepping on in the dark place had changed. It's like wood. I can't see it well. No, it's wood. Wood floor. It's the wood floor of a very old mansion. Then you're saying that those pig bastards used their aura to cover the area and create a wood-like texture? Why the hell would they do that? The Oni warriors muttered. You go. You go. You go. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. In the meantime, the singing and dancing around them gradually increased. When the world was bright, the song seemed to be nothing more than a moral-boosting war cry. However, the battlefield had become dark. The sunlight at dawn was too weak to dilute the darkness. You go. You go. You go. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. In the darkness, the voices of the goblins sounded like they were summoning something like a ritual or a curse. This made the Oni warriors anxious and cold sweat covered the back of their necks. It didn't end there. The Oni, who had skillfully trained auras, looked around, realizing that they were surrounded by something. Something without form, and without hostility, something faint, that wrapped around their ankles. Smoke. It was aura that flowed like smoke. Chapter 247. Chun Mumun Master, 2. The goblin's aura never displayed any hostility towards the Oni. As if it really was smoke, it just flowed and seethed. However, the higher the smoke around their ankles rose, the more people began to cough. 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 What is this? It's hard to breathe. At that moment, the vast cave was set ablaze. You go. You go. You go. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. The goblin warriors stomped them in one fell swoop. The Oni had already burrowed into the heart of the goblin camp, so they were able to attack them from both flanks. In the shadows they cast, they slaughtered the Oni warriors while dancing. But it wasn't simply by swinging swords. Their swords burned like flames, and their spears became pillars of fire that burned the illusionary cave. As they were cut by the fire, the Oni warriors screamed. Quack! Hot. It's hot. It's fire. Someone screamed. It's fire. A fire attack. Run away. Escape to the entrance. Wayok. Where is the entrance? There is still a place where light is coming from. Over there. Run away, kids. The formation of Oni warriors collapsed in an instant. Those who could use aura knew that it wasn't fire, but aura that was made to be infinitely close to fire, but they couldn't tell their subordinates that. It was true that it was hot. And when it got too hot, it burned. So, even if it was actually made of aura, how was it any different from flames? Infernal heavens formation. First law. Burning grave. The tragedy of the burning mansion had, today, been recreated on the battlefield. Escape. Run. Run away. The Oni rushed towards the entrance with all their might. There were those who stumbled and fell over because they weren't accustomed to the darkness, those who were caught up in their fall and fell, and those who tripped over the fallen. Rather than a retreat of warriors, it was more like the escape of criminals. It was a mess. Make sure to don't miss it. The sparks lurking in the darkness growled. Know the burning pain. Witness the moment when you can only scream as your entire body burns. The goblins were already immersed deeply in the cave fire play. They were all warriors. But at that moment, they were actors. They were priests recreating the white lion's myth on this ground, therefore, they were the flames of retribution that would burn their enemies. As they burned the enemies that dared to enter the burning mansion, they became the flames, were enthralled by the flames. No, they burned their anger towards the old enemies who had locked them in the cave of a salt mine where it was difficult to breathe. The fear of the cave that they had been forced to live in for hundreds of years. You go. You go. You go. Tapik, 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 tuck, tapik, 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 tuck. The myth colored the sky and the ground, and history colored the battlefield. The goblins, who were the believers of the White Lion's interpretation of the world, took the anger of being oppressed as slaves under the tyranny of the Rime Empire, and, above all, wielded their blades as warriors with aura in their hearts. Quack! Sadash, save me! Run away! It's fire! The fire of God! Run away! Heroes! 7 heroes! Please, save us! It was hell! Everyone, regardless of if they were Oni or Goblin, fell into a hallucination. The thick cloud of smoke-like aura amplified the hallucinations. The Oni didn't even think about swinging their swords or spears at the fire, and the goblins just continued to gnaw at their enemies' limbs as if they were actually fire. And so, like charcoal that had been burnt to the limit, the Oni army collapsed. That was why I was certain that this war was a war that had never been seen before. Even my retainers, who were watching the battle, were quiet. The first person to open their mouth was Kim Yul, who was the most familiar with tragedies among us. "It's amazing. Family head." Kim Yul looked down at his notebook expressionlessly. "Until now, I have traveled to several worlds where the Murim and Gango exist. And every time, I've met factions that use battle formations. But the methods they developed were, at best, able to affect people's perception and trap them in a pre-made maze. Or they didn't differ much from the level of a joint attack or strike." Closing his notebook, Kim Yul once again looked down below the mountain where the Infernal Heavens formation was unfolding. "But this is different. All of the users learned the same Infernal Heavens demonic art, and all of them have the same image in their minds. They used aura as a tool to paint the image that they all share in their minds in this world. They didn't just make and watch the painting, instead, they all became actors who dived in and burned. The family head has completed the formation of the Infernal Heavens." It was only then that Sylvia Evanale opened her mouth. "Wadash, what is that? Isn't it almost the same as a divine act? I mean, it's the same as a divine being descending and suppressing the area. How could mere humans who learn to use aura, have the authority of a constellation?" Aberka nodded. "Daddy's long-cherished desire of hundreds of years has finally come true." Ugher. I looked down at the burning earth. Only a handful of Oni managed to escape the burning grave. Among them, the 7 Oni heroes were nowhere to be seen. "The Chun Mumun Master's disastrous defeat," Estelle commented. All the family members nodded in agreement. But someone seemed to disagree with that sentiment. Hoo-hoo. A laugh could be heard in the distance. And a commotion erupted in the camp of the goblins who had just taken the advantage. "Wadash, what's that?" "The corpses. The Horned One's corpses are getting up." As said, the corpses of the Oni who had collapsed in the burning grave were standing up one after the other, with a stronger aura than before they collapsed. "That man," Estelle murmured in disbelief. And I also realized what had happened. Multiple reincarnation possession ***, previously, past life multiple possession. I thought this sounded better. Rank, SSS. Effect, possess the persons you choose. When that person dies, you return to your original mind. Cost, not for sale, this benefit can only be obtained via a special method. However, you can only possess someone within a minute of their death. Plus, the shadow of the venomous snake could be seen in each one of the Oni that stood up. Who said there were only 7 heroes in the Oni race? The number of heroes of the Oni race is limitless. They, the group of venomous snakes, all spoke. "You must have been mistaken about the 7 Oni heroes. Hoo-hoo, those guys were the weakest among the heroes. It is disgraceful for Oni to lose to goblins." In the midst of the scattered and bewildered goblins, 12 Oni took a battle stance. "We are the 1-2 Oni wings. It's not just us. Behind us are the 7-2 Oni devil kings. Beyond them, there is also the 108 Oni arhats." The resurrected Oni, the venomous snakes, shouted in unison. "We, the Oni race, are immortal." The goblins retreated hesitantly. "Why are those dead guys standing up and shouting?" "You go. It is evil magic. Black magic that blasphemes God and nature." It wasn't just the goblins that were perplexed. The Oni, who had barely survived the burning grave, murmured in fear. What the hell is going on right now? I don't know. However, something is happening. I was dumbfounded. No way, was this his secret for dealing with a burqa? Estelle let out a hiss. This is clearly foul play. Estelle continued heatedly. The Chun Mumun master does not belong to this world. Even if he is in the position of a god, sending 7 possessed bodies to directly intervene in a war was already crossing the line, but now he is even possessing the bodies of those who died in the war. That is completely unacceptable. Then, as if he heard Estelle's words, a body possessed by venomous snake at the front of the group turned. The venomous snake looked up at me, who was watching the battlefield from the ridge, and shouted. So noisy! The venomous snake at the bottom of the mountain shouted up to us, at the top of the mountain. I don't care how unsightly it is. I don't care if you curse me for being unreasonable. I don't care if you say it's against the rules. The Chun Mumun master, the man who was the most respected by his subordinates, shouted as if he was vomiting blood. As long as it helps these guys win, I'd even sell my soul. His figure could be described as unsightly, childish, and pathetic. However, most of all, it was human. The venomous snake, the Chun Mumun master, had done his best to show his sincerity, so I fixed my expression. Taking a step forward, I ordered. Warrior commander. Ugger, family head. A burqa prostrated himself. He also had a calm expression. A burqa's voice, gaze and demeanor were no different from a general reporting to the lord of a family. Advisor. Yes, family head. Estelle got down on one knee and prostrated herself as if she had been waiting for it. Beside her, a burqa, who had been called before, sat silently. Seeing my daughter and son prostrated side by side, I nodded. The Chun Mumun master has made it clear that he does not care about face or honor for the sake of those he is caring for. So for the sake of the Chun Mumun master, it would be polite of us to fight with all our might. I will entrust to both of you all of my race points. Use them as you wish to create as many troops as you want. I continued. Then I will leave the vanguard to the warrior commander. And the advisor will lead the main army. Attack all of the Chun Mumun masters. Should we annihilate them? Every member of the army led by the advisor is a master of the Murim, an elite who witnessed the beginning and ending of the demonic cult. Even if there were thousands of Chun Mumun masters, they could handle it. You're right. Estelle bowed and stood up. There was a huge greatsword on her back. The Devil King's red greatsword. It was such an excellent sword that it would if it could be given a name someday. I will do as you say. Even the goblins wouldn't turn down the help of a friend in these circumstances. With the greatsword that wiped out a continent on her back, Estelle turned around. I will send the dead back to where they belong. The Chun Mumun master may criticize our participation, but there is no need to worry about that. It would be better if he curses himself for not being a match for us. A burqa, who was beside her, was a bit taken aback. You go, big sis? Older sister asterisk? Contrary to how you look, aren't you pretty tough? Asterisk, he changed from the casual form Nuna, to the more polite Nunim. Go, warrior commander. You alone are the vanguard. Please buy me time while I prepare bodies for the warriors with the family head's race points. You should be able to do that even on your own. Isn't that right? A burqa smirked. I can do that much. In that case, please show it to him. Estelle unsheathed her great sword. Thud, and stabbed the great sword into the ground. The great sword looked like it would require 5 or 6 strong men doing their all just to move it. Of course, Estelle lifted it as easily as wielding a wooden sword. Show him what kind of existence our Death King family is. Ugger, ugger. Aburka clenched his fists and pursed his lips slightly. When I was not made the eldest son and older sister was instead made the eldest daughter, pushing me out of the succession battle, I was a bit dissatisfied. Ugger. Knowing how to fight a war is a virtue. Being good at fighting a war is a more magnificent virtue. I will take a good look at older sister's skills as the younger brother. Aburka raised his head and sucked in air 3 times, making you sounds, towards the sky. He let out a sound. The constellation, the musclehead who dreams of sinning against heaven, roars. Garoo. The battlefield instantly became quiet. Regardless of whether it was the bewildered goblins, surviving Oni, or the thousands of venomous snakes, they all froze as the lion's roar resounded. Now. Estelle pointed the tip of her blade toward the battlefield. Go. Our family clan's first battle kicked off. Chapter 248. Chun Mumun Master, 3. What is a family? To me, a family clan was not yet a family. In a way, it was on the path to being family. A place where those who were not yet family gathered, somehow formed relationships, and somehow worked hard to prevent the relationships that were formed from being broken, each taking on their respective roles. As long as I'm still the Grand Chamberlain, no one will abandon me. As long as I'm still fulfilling my responsibilities as Shadow, no one will abandon me. As long as. That desperation drove us. Until the day when I became someone's father, until the day that child became my child, we would work desperately, as we were standing in this position now. Aburka. As the being who watched over all the children's efforts, I was called the family head. Ugger. Aburka, who released a lion's roar towards the plains, looked back at me with a somewhat satisfied face. Hot breath seeped through the gap in Aburka's fangs. The enemy is a warrior who runs at the top of the tower. He even has some scam items. Therefore, it's an enemy that I don't need to go easy on. That's right. Fight as much as you like until your mind is at ease. Aburka grinned. That is the order I was hoping for. Family head. My beloved daddy. Thud. Aburka rushed toward the enemy, leaving behind the thudding sound of footsteps that shook heaven and earth. If the bodies of the Oni were like a train or a banner spear, Aburka's body was a tram or battleship. Aburka achieved the charge carried out by the Oni army of 9,000 troops, on his own. Is there any warrior that will fight me, Uberkea? Aburka roared. With a gasp, the surviving Oni slipped and tossed away their spears. There aren't any warriors among the Oni. Ah! No wonder there aren't. The only thing good about you bastards are the horns on your heads. Kuhahaha. The grinning Aburka was like a huge mythical giant, and the Oni were not ready to face a myth today. So, someone stepped onto the path to the Oni and faced off against Aburka. The 12 Oni wings. Gather. 12 soldiers, possessed by the venomous snake, rushed towards the giant wielding dual swords. Their bodies were severely damaged because they had died before to the burning grave. But it was murderous intent that burst from their wounds, not blood. We will stop you. Giant. Kill that guy. The Oni have not yet been defeated. This is but a minor crisis on the road to victory. Nothing has changed. Hearing the timbre of the 12 Oni wings, Aburka snorted lightly. Aura was heavily mixed into Aburka's snort. And that aura alone was enough to fill this place. Too weak. Aburka bared his fangs. When he smiled in his giant form, his huge fangs made him look like a smiling mythical demon. Even the goblin soldiers couldn't help but shudder. I am the warrior commander of the Death King family. Aburka laughed. The Death King family is a family clan that picks up the death lying in front of them. Where is their death without despair? Where is their death without resentment? Our family clan bears all the despair and resentment, only our Death King family. Therefore, only my family head is qualified to lead this family clan. Aburka slowly raised his axe. We do not stop those whose despair is inferior to ours from running away. We are prepared for those who try to stop us despite having resentment inferior to ours. I am the son of the Death King family, warrior commander Aburka. Swoosh! This axe will become your despair. Boom! A huge axe struck the place where the 12 Oni wings were standing. Smash! The blade of the axe dug into the ground, causing it to crack. It shook. Knocked them down. Rumble, rumble. Rumble. Like warriors after receiving a hard blow, the army of the dead flew away like the dust of the battlefield. Boom! As if an earthquake had occurred, the ground in the place where the 12 Oni wings had been holding out like a fortress caved and crumbled like a dry cookie. It was a monstrous act that occurred from a single blow of Aburka's axe. The 12 Oni wings stepped to evade it, but they were blocked by Aburka's right palm, and were instead hit by a full swing and struck down to the ground. The limbs of those who tried to escape and fell to the ground twitched and flinched before eventually stopping. They were dead. Ugger. 1 shot. 1 kill. The formation that a great figure like the venomous snake had resorted to tricks to make was crushed by Aburka like child play. However, the venomous snake didn't give up. Fall in. The venomous snake was now possessing thousands of Oni soldiers who had been trapped in a burning grave and killed. And the good thing about a single-person army was that they could fix a formation in an instant. Raise. All the venomous snakes raised their swords. Strike. Thousands of venomous snakes swung their swords at the same time. Snorting, Aburka lifted his huge axe to block it. It was as if a group of locusts were going wild against a rhinoceros. Hoo-hoo. Estelle laughed. We were watching Aburka gallivanting from afar. Every time the venomous snake kicked the ground with a papak, papak sound, pieces of the ground fell like hail, and every time Aburka moved with a thud, the early summer petals shook and flowed toward the plain. At this rate, the warrior commander will take all the merits. Jealous? No. Because the family head advised me to be true to the role of elder sister. Estelle made a prim expression. Then, with a snap of her fingers, she summoned the civilization store. Plus. Spiritual descent. Rank A. Effect, the player themselves obtains a body and descends. Price, 10,000 race points. However, the effect only lasts 5 minutes. Plus. I should also raise my prestige as elder sister, I think. Indeed. So she intended to personally descend rather than obtain a possessed body. Although I said you can use all of my race points, I didn't expect her to take out an item that even rarely used because of its terrible cost-effectiveness. With a little admiration, I said. You can really read my mind. Estelle laughed again. What's the point of an advisor that can't read the family head's mind? I laughed too. Fine. My son and daughter want to compete to see who's better, so I have no reason to refuse. Okay. You have my permission. Try to enjoy yourself until you're satisfied. Thank you. Family head. Estelle hugged my right arm, then as if she was embarrassed, she moved away with a movement technique. Hoo-hoo. I laughed because it was cute to see my eldest daughter and second son playing together. Is it funny? Sylvia Evanale, who had been standing in the background this entire time, said as if she was at a loss for words. My goodness. Foul play dancing in harmony with foul play. Actually, it was funny when the advisor started harping on about foul play earlier. After all, aren't you the OG king of foul play who likes to pick at all the loopholes? I can't deny that. Congratulations. It's a splendid debut. The Death King family will now be recognized as worthy of the name the strongest guild in the tower. The Death King will become the king who actually controls the tower. However, none of that matters. That's what you want to tell me. Sylvia Evenale. I wrapped both arms around Sylvia Evenale. The young miss was so small, she could fit in one arm. Even Sylvia, who would have normally made noise and said, "What are you doing?" or "I will tell Lady Raviol," was now silent. Family head. In my arms Sylvia Evenale asked with a fearful voice. "What do you wish to achieve in this war?" "There is only one thing that I can show people anytime, anywhere." I drew my sword. "That in this world, there is always a higher place." Sylvia, use spiritual descent. Use it. Sylvia timidly obeyed my words. With the deduction of another 10,000 race points, Sylvia gained a physical body and descended. For 5 minutes. Hold on tight. Wait a minute. Mr. Kim Gongja. No, family head. I'm actually getting nervous right now. I'm starting to feel that something outrageous is about to happen, like if some crazy guy were to jump from this mountain top here to the mountain peak that was pulled from it, which I think is a brilliant act of suicide that would only result in them smashing their head from the sky to the ground. But that's not going to happen, right? Say no, you fuck. I grabbed Grand Chamberlain Sylvia Evenale into my cloak. Then, I kicked off from the ground, and flew. Like a bird, I soared from the place the mountain peak had been torn from and had become a mere bluff starred. A bluff is a cliff, small hill, or other elevation on the side of a mountain or hill, that rises steeply from the ground, usually without trees or shrubs. Kaya Wayok. Wrapped in my cloak, Sylvia Evenale began to freak out. She struggled and resisted fiercely, but it was too bad. Even if you get away, we're in the sky. Do you want to just fall from the sky? Kaya Aawak. Do as you're told. If you fall from here, 10,000 points will go down the drain. Demon. What family head? I'm clearly serving an evil god. Ego, my life. Ego, Sylvia Evenale. Even serving Satan would be better than this. You should be skilled with aura. Grand Chamberlain. Why are you mentioning aura in this situation? Well, naturally I'm familiar with it. Release your aura. Don't think too much about it. Just like this, spread your aura while feeling the wind, and fly. What? Come on. I'll handle the rest. Inside my cloak, a small head moved. It was hard to see since she was wrapped so well in my cloak, but Sylvia Evenale had definitely nodded. And for me, that was enough consent. Grand Chamberlain Sylvia. Yes, family head. The scene of the first ball you attended as a child, do you remember it? How could I forget? That damned place. Then, recall it. I prepared my aura. As you recall, in every direction, just let your aura scatter. That moment. An exclamation came out of my thick cloak. Golden Silk's aura was golden. Brilliant and splendid, a color that seemed to promise the glory of childhood. As she let out her aura, Sylvia Evenale was able to half forcefully swim in the sky, and soon, it became billions of golden flower petals that scattered across the plains. Slowly. Golden maple leaves drifted across the plains. Tuck, golden ginkgo leaves scattered. Shining brightly, golden flower petals and buds of all the flowers the young miss loved and cherished, hydrangeas, lilacs, moth orchids, roses, lilies, peonies, all flowed to the ground. Infernal heavens formation. Extra law. Golden chaos flower garden. That was the longing Sylvia E. Vanale had as a child. Sylvia E. Vanale stared down blankly at the flower garden that her aura had created in an instant. Forgetting that she was still flying in the air, she simply looked down at the landscape that had been shaped by her life. Family head, you. I think it's beautiful. I said. We all can fail. We all made mistakes that we shouldn't have. However, even so, if you look back, you'll find that your origin is beautiful. Look. I pointed down. One of the Oni warriors, not a venomous snake, but one who had managed to escape the burning grave, carefully picked up one of Sylvia's golden flowers. The warrior treated it as if it was the greatest treasure, then, hurriedly, before anyone else could see it, they turned and fled. There weren't many, but several of them fled like that. The meaning of this battle. The history of this war. The resurrected corpses and descending myths. There were those who were more enchanted by the beauty that miraculously appeared before their eyes than all those irrationalities and illogicalities, so much that they decided to throw everything they'd ever had aside and run away. You are not nothing. Sylvia E. Vanale. You are my Grand Chamberlain. Tuck. After a long flight, we landed on the ground. It was the mountain peak that Aberka had torn off of and smashed into the middle of the battlefield, and the venomous snake and Oni army split and passed through. Standing on the two parts of the mountain peak that had been beautifully split, I looked around. You asked what I wanted. Grand Chamberlain. Yes. I want to show how much a mere person can do. The countless golden petals sculpted from aura dyed the plains gold. There, the Oni possessed by the venomous snake fought hard. However, Aberka's axe shattered them, and Estelle's cuts severed their limbs. When a soldier, who had already died once more, blood splattered from their wounds onto the lovely golden roses. Here. Kim Yul slowly opened his mouth. Is already a different world. That's right. The purpose of the infernal heavens formation was never to destroy the enemy. It was the most insignificant of all the purposes, and it was embarrassing to even mention it. Is this the landscape the family had wanted? Right. To show a different world to the living people. To show them different landscapes, different scenes, and consequently, different dreams. A fight for supremacy between the Oni and the goblins. The pride of their races. The wounds. It is so important that it occupies most of the weight in their hearts. That resentment. I'm very aware of it. However. Nevertheless, there is more to the world than that. I looked at an Oni who was running away with a golden rose in his hands. I don't know about that Oni warrior, nevertheless, I can imagine their life somewhat. Here now, there were individuals who became soldiers because it seemed natural. No one was allowed to retort, no one even prepared a retort, so someone accepted it as their path, like a fish swimming in the water of a great river. However, one day, one glorious day, if a golden rose that seemed out of this world was to slowly, gently, fall to someone's feet. It might just be a coincidence, but the moment they decided to run away with the flower petal, it was already fate. Now, that child is no longer a soldier. They are not even an Oni whose heart has become black after repeated defeats. They are an artist fascinated by the golden rose, who intends to pick up a sculpting knife or paintbrush to express it. That fellow has finally found their destiny. I looked behind me. Sylvia E. Vanale was staring at the golden plain and the back of the deserter fleeing from the golden plain as if she was drunk. Kim Yul had been staring at my face from beginning to end. There is no such thing as fixed fate. A small coincidence, a fleeting miracle, is enough to create the temptation to make a person live as a person. We don't want to live life if it feels like fate, we only want to live life if it is tempting. Do you understand, Shadow? We will give everyone climbing the tower the desire to live a little longer. Right. Kim Yul nodded. There is no hypocrisy or lies in the family head's words. I at least know that much. I reached out to Kim Yul, and as if he was expecting it, he gently took my hand. Because the family head has already made me want to live a little longer. Kim Yul descended. The aura from the shadow's hand and mine mixed together. Infernal heavens formation. Extra law. Fake desert beneath the roof. The wind blew. The wind was Kim Yul's aura. It was the wind that rolled across the roof of the school and scattered the sand in the schoolyard. Looking down, the grass on the plain had become grains of sand. With the smell of dying sand, the wind blew forlornly. Right. Kim Yul nodded. Just like the day when he stood on the roof and looked down at the schoolyard, just like that time, Kim Yul stood atop the split mountain peak and looked down at the sandy plain. I wanted to stick my head into that fake desert. Whenever I went onto the roof and looked down, everything beneath my feet was like a desert. Maybe there is spring water somewhere to moisten people's dry throats. I wasn't sure if there was an oasis. However, it was clear that the spring water would soon dry up. The sight of millions of hungry ghosts clinging to each other and fighting for a few drops of water, I didn't want to bear it. Kim Yul smiled. That's why I threw it away. However, even a rotten desert could be beautiful if it had rolling petals. In the infernal heaven landscape created by me and Kim Yul, Sylvia Evanale's golden flowers were still being carried by the wind. It was such a magnificent scene, so mysterious it made one breathless. The wind blew endlessly across the sandy desert, and golden roses, golden lilies, golden hydrangeas, and golden chrysanthemums rolled in thousands of directions, or were slowly carried by the wind. Kim Yul didn't stop smiling. He spoke in a whisper. If my life is as dry as a fake desert, I just need to wait for the petals to enter my desert. That is something I didn't know in my childhood. At that time, I didn't know that a vast desert could attract a bunch of flowers, or that a bunch of flowers could attract a vast desert. Kim Yul looked at me with a smile. Thanks. Family head. I'm happy that your flower language and the class president's flower petals entered my desert, because they are beautiful. At that moment. Boom. In the place where Aberka and Estelle were fighting. A place where Kim Yul's wilderness was covered by the golden silk's golden flower petals. On the battlefield, the venomous snake's possessed bodies began releasing sharp aura one after the other. Why? Among them, there was one individual who released a particularly sharp aura. Their hair was a mess. Their horn had been broken at some point, proving that they were an Oni warrior that had been defeated before. From their small stature and thin skin, it was clear to see that they were a soldier who had survived on this battlefield with nothing but their rage and will. Why? Behind the warrior, the venomous snake hovered like Beihurayong. With anger. Why are the kids I take care of? The venomous snake's possessed bodies stomped in unison. Boom! The bodies that had died twice and could no longer be possessed were sent flying. Even now, even then. Death King. Why? Why can't the children I take care of, like the kids you take care of? The venomous snake's eyes blazed. The rage became hatred. The aura took on a grotesque form, and his dark purple light in his eyes burned. It was a scene I'd seen before, on a certain snowy field. Disharmony. It was the same as when my teacher was not yet my teacher. It wasn't difficult to figure out the reason. a multiple possession itself gnawed heavily on the user's mental power. Splitting yourself into hundreds and thousands, inserting them into the possessed bodies, and manipulating them all. It was never something that could be done soberly. Even then. It was like that even then, Death King. Even then. What period was the venomous snake referring to? I wanted to ask, but it seemed that the opportunity to get a sane answer had already passed. Rampaging aura surrounded all of the venomous snakes. Don't worry about it. Suddenly, someone grabbed my hand. Everything will be all right. It was Estelle. When had she returned to my side? Estelle smiled softly and squeezed my hand, as if to tell me not to worry. Isn't that the family head's companion? Just give him a smack and tell him to come back. Family head. Just do it like always. Right. You're right. I nodded. In the place where Estelle's palm and mine touched, aura began to resonate. Estelle was the child who watched me learn the infernal heaven's demonic art from beginning to end from the closest place. When it came to the understanding of the infernal heaven's demonic art, few people could compare to Estelle. Because of that. Tuck. Tududuk, tuck, tuck. Tuduk, tudududuk, duck, tudududu. Rain. Rain, on the battlefield, on the plain, on the fluttering golden rose petals, on the sand in the wind. Red rain fell on the fake desert covered with thousands and tens of thousands of flowers. Fall rain. Infernal heaven's formation. Extra law. Gracefully raining grief of heaven. Rain fell. Chapter 249. Turning Tables, 1. It rained that day. Ha! What the hell is the principle behind rain inside a tower? The venomous snake grumbled as he trudged down a dark street. Several streetlights had been built, but they were sparse. It was as if an elementary school student had thrown a few bean sprouts to plant them. Some had even been destroyed. Fuck. Glancing at a broken streetlight, the venomous snake frowned. In the tower's earliest days. A time when the infrastructure had yet to be overhauled. Buildings received power outages whenever they felt like, and all sorts of crimes happened on the streets without traffic lights or crossings. Tired of this, the Sword Saint declared, "I will make a civil militia, but, well, would it work?" The venomous snake was skeptical. This place was the hangout spot for scum and lunatics. Chun Mumun Master. Then came the voice of the man who could be called the leader of the lunatics. From behind him. He really didn't want to turn around, but considering that lunatic's social status, he had no choice. What is it? As expected, it's the Chun Mumun Master. A gold-plated smile. Turning around, he saw a fairy-like child standing in the middle of the street like a garbage can. The child, who looked like they had never done anything wrong in their life, smiled. Their fresh blonde hair, as if they had just taken a shower, added a solid fragrance to the child's smile. Heretic questioner. The venomous snake knew the name of this dangerous being. "It's raining, so why are you calling me?" Ahaha, so stiff. I received advice from the Black Dragon Master. She told me to talk to you in public. The venomous snake frowned. Meaning? By talking to me in public like this while it's raining, are you trying to give the impression that Chun Mumun and the 10,000 Temple have a good relationship? Oh, indeed. That's exactly what I meant. How come I didn't know? You followed so well. I'm still learning. I had no other choice. Sticking to my goal, it would be more efficient to go to a cafe together and get out of the rain than to do this here. The tip of the venomous snake's nose twitched. As expected, it's not right. Something, instinctively, doesn't match between the two of them. After exchanging words, the other party would draw a conclusion and progress. Nonetheless, the venomous snake didn't have the feeling of exchanging words. Quite the contrary. It was as if they were exchanging words, but they were in a foreign language such that they would never be able to understand each other. A cafe. Yes, a good cafe. Again. Even though they both said cafe, he could feel a difference. Was the word cafe that he was using really the same as him? Did he understand? If a parrot memorized the patterns and exchanged the questions and answers in a conversation with a human, could it be considered communication? The venomous snake gazed into the heretic questioner's eyes with his one remaining eye. There was no reflection of him in the heretic questioner's eyes. His blue eyes seemed only reflect the color of the sky. In that case, it made no difference, talking to this guy, or talking to the sky. Either way, the conversation wouldn't work. With a religion created out of a desire to talk to gods that could not be communicated with, trying to talk to the head of that religion could be considered ironic. Oi. Religious quack. Yes, sword quack. 10,000 temple master. Yes, Chun Mumun master. Heretic questioner. Yes, venomous snake. Right. The venomous snake spoke to the raining sky. Right. Let's go to the cafe. It rained that day. It rained. Death King. A rain-soaked roar resounded. The Chun Mumun master. The hunter with the title Venomous Snake, borrowing the body of an Oni warrior with a broken horn, widened his red eyes. It wasn't just his eyes that were red. Disheveled hair. Single horn. Chest muscles and dangling nails. Red rainwater flowed over every part of him. The more his body was tinted red, the more the venomous snake's possessed body twisted as if in unbearable agony. Quack! It was the aura from the infernal heavens formation released by Estelle and I. Gracefully raining grief of heaven. The fall rain that Estelle scattered around the world when she was the Devil King. Estelle's resentment and enmity flowed like endless rainwater. The venomous snake, who had borrowed several possessed bodies, was struck by the red shower all at once. Hoo, hoo. Hoo hoo. Ah ha 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 ha. The possessed bodies fell one by one, and the one-horned warrior laughed. That warrior rose up from the pile of Oni corpses. He pushed aside the corpses of his own kind, stepped on them, and kicked them away as he made a path for himself. The shape of the Oni was a venomous snake starred, asterisk, not the title. The warrior, no, the venomous snake chuckled. The light in his eyes was redder than the rain. It was a clear sign of disharmony. The venomous snake's entire body was covered in blood, and he licked the rainwater flowing into his mouth as if it was cool spring water. Do you intend to stop us? Me, Death King. Yes. I answered. I intend to stop you. Chun Mumun master. Why? One of the kids I take care of told me something. I glanced to where the chairman of the goblins was. If a burka blows you away, will it be their victory, or a burka's victory? Oh ho. By the same principle, if you use a crowd to win in this situation, that's your victory, not your race's victory. Oh ha ha ha. The warrior, who had fallen into a state of disharmony, howled loudly in the rain. If it's the race you lead, there's nothing to say about uprightness or righteousness. I'm so pissed. Right. That's right. That's what a guy like me does, fuck. Chun Mumun master. How did you raise those kids to be so upright and righteous, fuck? Crackle. An electric current danced at the venomous snake's feet. As if in response, lightning struck from the raining sky. Boom! The turbulence of aura shook the ground. The raindrops puddled on the ground splattered, and the rainwater embroidering the sky that was caught in the lightning evaporated. Damn it! The electric current flowed through the puddle on the ground. Electrified raindrops wriggled in every direction. The venomous snake, who was in the middle of the electrified puddle, stood firmly on both feet. My kids! Amazingly, the color of the electric current and lightning was purple. Why are they having so much trouble putting a guy like me on top? Huh? Death King! The venomous snake howled while drawing lightning from the sky. It rained that day. You didn't have to kill them. In front of the cooling corpse in a back alley, the venomous snake muttered. Why did you kill them? Did you really need to? Heretic questioner. You're an amazing brat. But why do you always do that? That. With both hands stained with blood, the heretic questioner tilted his head to the side. The venomous snake couldn't tell if he was receiving an answer from the heretic questioner or the raining sky. Because that way is more efficient. Dash. Corpses can't talk. They can't act. So they can't break promises or become future threats. That's why it's better to kill those who show hostility when I can. As the number of rainy days increased one by one, the time that passed doubled. Now, on a street where the number of streetlights increased, the child of a broken god who had made people a part of the street many times, eventually, as if he'd grown tired of it, cupped his chin and said, Chun Mumun Master. Dash. I know you're trying to fix me. The heretic questioner smiled brightly. Your efforts have paid off, and now, the two of us can be said to have a relationship where, instead of going to a cafe to show the closeness between our guilds, we can go to order coffee. Dash. However, that is all. The heretic questioner looked at the venomous snake. His eyes, which looked like the sky, reflected neither the corpse, nor the venomous snake in front of him. You can only use me like everyone else. You cannot change the principles of my behavior. Old vehicles raced down the road. They were all cars that should have been sent to the antique shop already, but in Babylon, seeing such junk rolling around was normal. Bang! Bang! The sound from their exhaust pipes was like the wheezing of weak lungs. Why? Because you cannot take responsibility for me. Although they were cruel, the pointed words in the rain were simple, pure facts. I was born like this. I have lived like this. This is the only way I can live, and your attempts to instill a different way of life in me, despite your good intentions, are bound to fail. A broken streetlight was knocked down by the rain. Despite that, the heretic questioner smiled brightly with his arms spread out. Nevertheless, Chun Mumun Master. Is that such a bad thing? I define those who try to kill me because they cannot take responsibility for me as my enemies. Sadly, 99% of the world is made up of enemies. In that regard, Chun Mumun Master is a very rare case. You probably wouldn't kill me even if there was a chance. Lightning struck. In the torrential rain, the lightning seemed purple. Startled by it, a car drove nearby and landed heavily in a puddle. As if splashed by an invisible hand, a spray of water rose up and hit the two of them. To say it plainly, the two of us are friends and colleagues. Isn't that enough? That wasn't enough. However, if it was the best option, he had no choice but to be satisfied. That's what he thought. Lightning struck in the rain. All auras have a different color. However, it's not just the color that is different. Even with the same red aura, it could have the meaning of blood or rose. Depending on the image that the aura user has in their heart, and the image that is embedded in their core, the aura would also be different. My aura resembled blood and flames. And the sixth-ranked hunter, the venomous snake, seemed to have damaging purple lightning asterisk in his heart. Asterisk, contextually, the damaging part is still unclear. That, I grabbed the saber of a corpse that had fallen close by. How would I know? Why don't you know, bastard? The venomous snake rushed forward. Just as the form of his aura was lightning, the venomous snake, who had fallen into a state of disharmony and released his true ki, was as fast as lightning. It was almost impossible to follow the venomous snake's movement with the naked eye. In an instant, the venomous snake's figure flashed past me. Whoosh! Shit! A line of blood burst from my shoulder. Blood spurted out. A bizarre quick sword. If he had cut a bit deeper, I might have lost my left arm, but I was angry for other reasons, not the injury. Damn it, why are you just standing there in a daze? Before I regressed, the Chun Mumun master was one of the great figures that I dare not even look up to. Even after finding out that he was an emperor of light novels with a sloppy temperament, on a fundamental level, I still respected this man. Even taking into account that it was impossible for him to think clearly while in a state of disharmony, I couldn't bear the fact that such a man was acting like this. Acting like this to your junior, aren't you ashamed? Junior? Ha! Where in the world is there a junior like you? The venomous snake's voice came from every direction. This was because the venomous snake was moving his body in every direction without stopping. At a speed that divided 1 second into several pieces, before I knew it, the venomous snake appeared in front of me. I used aura to increase my senses as much as possible. But in the infinitely increased time, the venomous snake struck at my stomach, chin and head. A lethal blow. The determination to kill me was contained in every blow. Moving my feet, pushing my hands, and twisting my waist, I avoided the blows. Why? The venomous snake didn't stop. Taut, before the sound of his step disappeared, the venomous snake appeared on the other side. He swung his sword. Pushing my aura to the limit, I narrowly evaded the venomous snake's sword strike. Death King! Why is it you? The moment I dodged the sword strike, the venomous snake's eyes met mine. His eyes burned with poison star. It was poisonous enough to wonder if that was what poisonous goo *** looked like when they were put in a jar. Also malice/spite ***, referring to the sealing of several venomous creatures, e.g., centipede, snake, scorpion, inside a closed container, where they devoured one another and allegedly concentrated their toxins into a single survivor, whose body would be fed upon by larvae until consumed. The venomous snake's pupils became jars of goo poison that shined dark red. Why are you, the only one making those other guys happy? What are you suddenly? You inherited the mantle of the infernal heavens. That story. It was sudden to me. And to me, who froze, the venomous snake screamed as if vomiting blood. You set up the best moment for the heavenly demon. You gave her a gift. Despite being eaten away by the agony of death, the heavenly demon was still able to laugh heartily at the gifts you gave. He, too, was a colleague who joined me in the Chronicles of the Heavenly Demon. I fought on the side of the demonic cult's faction, while the venomous snake fought for the righteous sex faction. I took the heavenly demon as my teacher, and the venomous snake took the Murim Lord as his teacher. Why? A colleague, who shared the winter with me, screamed. Why didn't the Lord do that? That scream had the power to freeze my feet for a moment. The venomous snake's sword ki swept across my cheek, causing blood to splatter, but I couldn't help but stand still. Grandpa Namgung Yun also lived desperately. He wanted to become a human that could confront the heavenly demon, somehow. He devoted his entire life to training and practice. In my one eye, the Muram Lord looked sublime. But why did such a noble man meet such an end? Why did he always have to find happiness in taking care of people who knew nothing? The venomous snake's aura became darker. Purple aura rose up from his shoulders, slowly flailing upward, stretching into the air. It's my fault. That is also my fault. Just like I didn't take good care of these guys, I didn't try to understand Grandpa Muram Lord more deeply. The venomous snake's head was still lowered. But just as quiet as he'd become, just so was the amount of aura flowed from his body. Now, the venomous snake's aura hung from his back, wriggling like tentacles. Silence. The fight between the Chun Mu-mun and the Death King family was already coming to an end. Every time Kim Yul swung his sword, 1 or 2 possessed bodies died. Every time a Burka swung his axe, 5 or 6 people fell apart. Every time Estelle swung her sword, a row of possessed bodies that were trying to counterattack evaporated in an instant. The only sound was the venomous snake's own screams. As the defeat deepened, so too did the silence. Death King. Yes, Chun Mu-mun Master. Why? Then. The venomous snake raised his head. Our eyes met. As I saw his shaking jet-black eyes, I realized. It was only after meeting those eyes that I was certain. I understood the meaning in the venomous snake's eyes and the shaking in his voice. It was probably the thing I understood most at my age. Because it was the eyes and voice that I had in the past. My very first wish. The resentment that could not be fulfilled until my first death. My wish, my essence to stand atop a high ridge to breathe the fresh air as I please, swing my sword as I please, walk only the path I want to walk on, and live the life I want to live. The first skill I got. I want to become just like you. As soon as I looked into the venomous snake's eyes, I understood the name venomous more than anyone else. I also. The venomous snake asked this. I also want to be like you. That's right. At some point, I had become an existence like this for others. Chapter 250. Turning Tables, 2. I had become an object of envy. No, this wasn't a feeling that could simply be described as envy. Jealousy. That's right. Only jealousy could be used to describe the boiling loneliness. Although it's not the first time. Right, it wasn't the first time. Hunters I didn't know. Those who lived every day on the first floor, waiting for their skills to awaken without being able to go further. The Death King Kim Gongja was already an object of jealousy for countless people. I knew that. All of that tsunami-like attention, the voices praising me or asking for an autograph, the whispers and pointing as I walked back and forth on the street, I enjoyed it quite a bit. However. Even you. I slowly stared at the venomous snake. Even someone like you is jealous of me. Someone like the venomous snake. The sight of them chatting carelessly and joking around as they did now was so impossible that it would have freaked me out if I had seen it in the past. My heart's idols. To me, who was a fan of the top hunters, they were like idols. Even though the leader of the idol group, Flame Emperor, had retired due to an unfortunate accident and was preparing to become a trainee again, the venomous snake was still one of my heart's idols. And yet, such a person was releasing a boiling aura all over the place and screaming that he was jealous of me. I was confronted with that heart right in front of my eyes. I couldn't help it, I started to laugh loudly. Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha. Ah-ha-ha-ha-ha-ha. A moonlit plain. The vegetation was lost beneath the sandy desert, and fine grains of sand fluttered to and fro in the wind. The hills and valleys of the sandy desert were covered in tens of millions of rose petals. Then, it rained. The rain of fall. Red rain poured in every direction. It was a shower. The sandy desert was covered by water, and the lines of the valleys shined. The rose petals that swallowed the raindrops became fresher. And so, the world, the sandy desert, was revived by the sound of rain falling and the sound of water flowing, and the golden petals embroidered the surface of the water, creating the illusion that something sacred was asleep there. An oasis erected in the middle of the desert. It was only when our surroundings had become an oasis that I stopped laughing. Ha! The venomous snake glared at me. You're laughing? I nodded with my rain-soaked face. Yes. I feel like I just laughed all my laughs for this year. You bastard. Chaying. The venomous snake tried to rip out my throat with his specialty lightning-like speed. However, it didn't work. The grains of sand he stepped on to get into his stance were Kim Yul's, the petals he passed while moving through the air were Sylvia's. And, above all, the rainwater he was already drenched in was Estelle's. I'm sorry, Chun Mumun Master. I countered the venomous snake's attack as if I could predict where and how he would attack. Was I able to serve Master because I am strong? Were my children raised to be strong because I am strong? That's all true. It's true, but I think the Chun Mumun Master is mistaken about something. Mistaken. I wasn't strong from the start. I picked up a short spear asterisk from the ground. Then, I condensed and compressed my aura onto the very tip, and threw the now red short spear, asterisk aka javelin/throwing spear, towards the venomous snake. Kook. The venomous snake rolled to avoid my attack. Pasha Shasha. The sharp short spear tore petals apart and dug deeply into the desert sand. Tuck, tuck, raindrops fell on the handle of the short spear. Bleeding, the venomous snake got to his feet. As if he was unable to completely dodge the short spear I threw, the venomous snake's body was already a mess. Fu-CK. What the hell are you talking about? Just that, I wasn't strong from the start. I created 3 aura spears. I gathered together a few petals, a few grains of sand, and a few drops of water, then, in an instant, they took the forms of 3 crimson spears. The 3 spears hovered in the air, awaiting my orders. This is a feat that I wasn't able to perform instantly. I beckoned slightly, and hurled the spears at the venomous snake. Kook! Blood splattered. Really, it's surprisingly really recent. If I didn't have the support of Estelle, Sylvia, Kim Yul, and my vassals, I would not be able to waste my aura like this. The venomous snake had managed to dodge 2 of the 3 attacks. However, that was my goal. The last aura spear hit the venomous snake's shoulder and pierced his flesh. He collapsed, screaming. I didn't defeat the Devil King of Fall Rain because I was strong from the start. I definitely wasn't able to reassure and comfort Master because I was strong from the start. When I heard the venomous snake's words, I recalled the first time I met Master. That's why I laughed. At that time, as I wished, I was accepted as a disciple of my maiden home by Master. Master said, "Let's see if you are qualified to become a direct disciple," and took me somewhere, but the somewhere was a pit filled with martial arts zombies. The so-called hunger training of the infernal heavens demonic art. It was a training course to realize the sword of starvation. Why are you hesitating? Hurry up, and don't fall into hell. That was what Master said to me as I screamed and hit the martial arts zombies. Remember the longest time you were starved for. The longest time I starved for was 3 to 4 days. What? 3 to 4 days? Upon hearing my answer, Master was dumbfounded. Oh ho. Ha. TSK, TSK, TSK. I see that this isn't getting through to you. Enough. This was my fault. For a moment, I had hope. As I thought, you are a man whose only talk. Then Master abandoned me. She left me, who was struggling madly and desperately in the pit, in the blink of an eye, without giving me a single glance. Heavenly Demon Nim. Heavenly Demon Nim? Please wait. Oh my God, it's not like being hungry is something special. Does that make any sense that you can't learn martial arts because of that? Huh? Oh foo. Before I could go from foo to CK, I was eaten by the martial arts zombies. I couldn't help but laugh as I recalled those memories. My master, a cold and aloof person. It was difficult to give her a single flower. And now, there was someone who was jealous that I made her smile, envious, and struggling to surpass me, so what should I do? My lifetime master must have received a lot of jealousy and envy while she was alive, so what did she do at that time? It was a bit unfortunate that I couldn't ask Master what I wanted to write now, or hear her voice. Chun Mumun Master, everything I did wasn't because I was strong from the start. It's just that I received a bit more time than everyone else. The venomous snake breathed heavily as he looked up at me. Naturally, he didn't understand what I was saying. Unlike me.
Ah.
I could understand the venomous snake's heart. I understood it completely without a single falsehood or misunderstanding. It wasn't just because I was once in a position of envy. Because I heard it. Just a moment ago, when the venomous snake was screaming and swinging his sword at me. The images of the venomous snake from the days before I met him and the heretic questioner from the before he met me were reflected in my mind for a moment, like a mirage. Not just their images, but also their voices. I know you're trying to fix me. Why? Because you cannot take responsibility for me. I looked at the venomous snake. The venomous snake was still looking at me. Beneath his dark gaze, his thick lips were tightly shut. However, to say it plainly, the two of us are friends and colleagues. Isn't that enough? Even at that moment, I could hear the voices gathered together in the venomous snake's heart. It wasn't that I had awakened a new skill. My skill list was still filled with footprints that substantiate my life. It also wasn't that I had gained sudden enlightenment and could now read people's minds, it was just traces of the Tower Master. It was an after effect of being killed by the Tower Master and witnessing her trauma.
So?
Jung, the master of the tower who embraces the unhappiness and misfortune of all life, Mansing. The god who witnesses and recalls every moment of their unhappiness. Tens of millions, hundreds of millions, no, a countless number of human trauma were transplanted onto the Tower Master. As much as they suffer, the Tower Master suffers. When they scream, the Tower Master also screams. And so, everyone's trauma is the Tower Master's trauma. That moment when I saw the Tower Master's trauma, did I see the trauma of every being living in the tower at the same time? A tremendous amount of memory that was difficult for a human to withstand. Therefore, we generally lived lives of not remembering, having poor recollection, or forgetting entirely. However, like this time where the venomous snake was shouting about past resentment, I was beginning to hear, too. Like looking at the trauma of those who killed me. The scenes the Tower Master witnessed, the wounds she transplanted to her heart. I wasn't sure if it really happened in the past of this world, in a world created separately by Jah.
So?
Jung's interference, or somewhere in the future. Half divine eye. I opened my eyes to that.
Ha!
I let out a laugh once again. This was the world that the Tower Master saw. It was saddening just to think that in your daily life, just by bumping into someone by chance, you would hear their cries and screams. What I was laughing at a while ago. Shaking my head, I brushed my thoughts aside. Then, I looked at the human in front of me. Chun Mumun Master, do you want to defeat me? The sudden question made the venomous snake pause. Not paying attention to that, I continued to ask. As fair as possible. Chun Mumun Master, you don't want anything other than to beat me in one-on-one, right? The venomous snake grit his teeth. If that's the case. Blood gushed from the venomous snake's mouth. If that's the case, then what would you do? That spat blood, I didn't avoid it. The venomous snake had collapsed, and I was looking down at him, so a few drops of blood from the venomous snake's mouth splashed onto my cheek. Give you a chance. Just like I didn't wipe away the pouring rain, I also didn't wipe away the blood. I'll say it again, I wasn't strong from the start. Time. It took a lot of time. During that time, I gathered all the children I got along with and created a family. I grabbed the aura spear stuck in his shoulder and pulled it out. Cough. Once more, the venomous snake's body heaved and blood gushed out. And there are a lot of ways for the Chun Mumun Master to buy time. I slowly opened my mouth. 200 years, 6 months, and 21 days. That is the amount of time the heretic questioner spent on the 31st floor on his own. Silence. Perhaps for a moment, the venomous snake didn't understand the meaning of my words. But his eyes slowly widened. Tuck. Raindrops falling from the sky flowed through my hair before landing on the body of the venomous snake. It wasn't until a few raindrops had fallen did the venomous snake open his mouth. You don't mean, therefore. Yes. I nodded. Whether it takes 200 years or 300 years, try to stay alone in this place like the heretic questioner. Train and practice for hundreds of years. Try to attract people. Then challenge me again. Chun Mumun Master. Hundreds of years. Closed-door training where you were trapped in time, not space. That was what I told the venomous snake. Chapter 251. Turning Tables, 3. The venomous snake slowly opened his eyes. Black water drained from his eyes. The emotion that had been burning on his face disappeared. I could tell that his sense of reason, which had been lost in the state of disharmony, was slowly awakening. Are you telling me to seclude myself and train? To be precise, it doesn't have to be closed-door training, but instead, you would seclude yourself in this stage, this world. I guess you could say it's closed-world training. Since you'll be using an entire world as your training ground, there's no more luxurious or lavish training than this. I smiled. If you had told me you were jealous, I didn't realize how much I've grown. I should have paid more attention to the feelings of the people around me, but I didn't. I am also an inadequate person. A bad person. Do you know how I feel as I watch the Chun Mumun Master making such a sorrowful expression? I feel fantastic right now. I tilted my head back and laughed. So much so that Sylvia's petals stuck to my lips, and Estelle's rainwater entered my mouth. Still, I laughed heartily, not caring at all. To be envied by the Chun Mumun Master is such a great feeling. Seriously. It really feels so good. I must have been born to feel this. I feel like the reason I was born into this world must be just to create a scene where everyone envies me, to the point where I feel like it is my destiny. I mean it. At that moment, a spear flew out from the pile of corpses across from me. I lightly flicked my hand, altering the trajectory of the spear so that it flew off to an entirely different location. Thud. At the same time, one of the venomous snake's possessed bodies charged towards me from the pile of corpses. Hiya Ahab. Although they had a relatively small build, they wielded a great sword. Was this the trump card the venomous snake had hidden? Buried in a pile of corpses, filled with the desire to not miss when I finally showed an opening, to stick their blade in, even just once. Chun Mumun Master. No, Mr. Venomous Snake. Crunch, I stomped my foot. The ground in the surroundings that had turned into Kim Yol's sand, making a squelching sound. Why are you doing this when you know you can't? I struck the ground with my blade. Swoosh. At the same time, a sand hole began to form right where the venomous snake's possessed body was charging. Shocked, he tried to step back, but it was useless. A sand hole was forming there too. Before he could escape from the hole, the sand swallowed his toes, calves, thighs, torso, and finally, his head. Did you see that? I put a hand on Kim Yol's shoulder and looked at venomous snake's possessed body. Whether it's 12 Oni wings or 36,000 Oni, no, even if the entire Oni race turned into clones to fight, you can't defeat me right now. Do you really want to fight like this? Yes? Should I discard my honor and everything else and drive the Oni race to extinction? In any case, you fought and lost. You did your best, but it wasn't enough, so you didn't lose your pride. So, it's okay, everyone will just say it's okay, at the funeral. Chun Mumun Master. Mr. Venomous Snake, is this the scene you want? I grabbed Venomous Snake by the collar. That's not it, right? You don't want such a glorious defeat, do you? Silence continued. Then, the venomous snake's lips opened. Yes. I want, even if it's just once. Yes. I want to be ahead of you. Yes. I want to be the main character. Right. That's the real bottom. If it were to borrow the form of a wish, it would be an utterly miserable sentence. I want to be like you. How candid a desire. But that lump of desire looked beautiful in my eyes. Because the venomous snake is a person of action. He's different from someone who just bangs on their keyboard because of envy. He's different from someone who spends their everyday life in vain, waiting for a fortune that may or may not exist. The venomous snake was different from me. Even though he envied me, he still thought, made efforts, and took action to catch up. He was a strong person who turned his envy into personal growth. How can I not laugh? Chun Mumun. Asterisk, can't remember if I said this before or not, but it roughly translates to Heavenly Marshal Gate. I said, looking at the venomous snake. As you said, Namgung Yun, the head of the Murim righteous faction, is the supreme leader of Chun Mumun. There was a question in the venomous snake's eyes. I spoke without caring. I heard that usually, you spend your time training the Chun Mumun guild members and carrying out small tasks. However, no matter how renowned the members of the Mun faction are in the tower, would they be of any importance in the eyes of the supreme leader who is revered for his extraordinary talent in the world? That's probably why you're suffering too. The venomous snake's face contorted in pain. Without answering, he admitted that what I said was true. I spoke slowly. However, Chun Mumun Master. Think about the last great battle between righteousness and evil factions. On either side of a vast snowy plains, 1,000 demonic cult troops appeared. Like shadows come to life, they wore dark cloaks from head to toe. Their number reached 1,000. As the world was heading towards destruction, people gathered from all over to protect the heavenly demon, the very essence of the demonic cult. As my words continued. Until then did our family's warriors, who had been quietly assembled, begin to move. In the wide sandy plains, they precisely formed a large formation without a single error. Even the moonlight seemed to fade as it approached their formation, and from a distance, they looked like one gigantic mass, like a black dragon. The venomous snake gulped. Even though they hadn't received bodies yet, the 1,000 elite demonic cult members spread across the sandy plain were a sight to behold. He was not someone who couldn't recognize their strength just because they were in a spiritual form. However, Mr. Venomous Snake. They're not the only ones. I used a skill. 100 Ghosts Reincarnation. At that. Across the plain, right in front of the lined-up cult members, a new shadow was cast by the moon. It was dark. Various shadows could be seen within the dark bushes. At first, it seemed like a weasel was poking its head between the bushes, and then, it looked like deer running through the reeds. They wore white fur on their bodies, causing their existence to seemingly brighten the world. As the summoning ended and they became a single mass, they stood firmly in place, like a great white tiger. Those guys are. The venomous snake recognized them. I nodded my head. Yes. 100 ghosts I'd never summoned before. I had the ability to summon them, but since I didn't think I deserved to summon them, I left them in their final rest. These are the 1,000 elite from the righteous sect of the Muram Alliance. You are the disciple of the leader of Nam Gung Yun. Therefore, just as I became the deputy leader of the demonic cult as the disciple of my master, you are also qualified to lead them. The venomous snake stared blankly at the 1,000 elite troops of the righteous sect engraved on the plain. However, now, they will not swear loyalty to you. Right? So you're preparing the battle of good and evil. It won't be easy to win their loyalty one by one. Are you telling me I can try that? No. I looked at the venomous snake and said. I'm telling you that you can do it. The venomous snake pulled out the spear embedded in his chest with a thud. Then, with a face contorted due to pain and humiliation, he stood upright. Those warriors of the righteous sect will disappear as soon as you disappear from this stage. Yes. Because they are people who exist as a part of my skill. Then I can only accept them after my closed world training ends. That seems to be the case. The venomous snake spat out blood-stained saliva and glared at me. Wait, Death King. The eyes of the warrior of the Oni race, the one-eyed venomous snake, targeted me like a single spear blade. I lost in this stage. Right, our Oni race children have been defeated. But next time will be different, next time. Just wait there quietly. No. And I denied his words once more. How can the loser have closed world training? The venomous snake didn't seem to understand my words at first. However, my vassals understood what I meant. In particular, Estelle, the advisor of the Death King family who bought the spiritual descent at a cost of 10,000 race points for just 5 minutes in the present world, must have understood my thoughts better than anyone. Lady. I will forfeit this stage. Therefore, when I shouted this, none of my vassals reacted. Only the venomous snake reacted. What? No, wait, why the hell would you forfeit? I raised my hand to stop the venomous snake. Look behind me, the leader of Chun Mumun Master. The venomous snake's eyes cleared up again. His hazy vision must have finally seen the scene beyond my shoulder. The goblin race was there. Dash. Dash. Thousands of goblin race warriors. They all had their arms crossed. The weapons that were originally held in their hands to target the enemy had all been put down by their feet. Angry glares were directed at my family's vassals and the white giant, Aburka. Dash. Dash. The goblin race remained silent. However, it was impossible to not understand what they meant. That, they cannot accept this kind of victory. Even though outrageous things have happened, it seems I've crossed the line. Smiling bitterly, I spread my arms. Taking care of children is really tough. What I thought was best for the kids could actually end up becoming me ignoring and interfering with them. The venomous snake's eyes became more and more clear, and he could see more. The Oni who escaped from the burning grave, and those who had witnessed the borrowing of corpses and looked at the venomous snake with resentful eyes. However, there is a significant difference. Do you know what it is, Chun Mumun Master? Standing between the goblins who were silently protesting against me and the Oni who were afraid of the venomous snake, I spoke to the venomous snake. The winner has the right to refuse a victory they do not care for. The venomous snake narrowed his eyes. You. I nodded and said. On the other hand, the loser has no right to refuse a rejected victory when it comes back to them. Don't make me laugh. The venomous snake roared angrily. A victory like this, The reason the venomous snake's words faded was not because he understood the phrase, the loser has no right to refuse a rejected victory, in his head. It was probably because he realized if the Death King family had not intervened and he had possessed the corpses of the Oni to massacre the goblins, the surviving Oni would not have wanted such a victory either. A look of realization appeared in the venomous snake's single eye. Even while being criticized by the goblins, I could not help but feel pleased with it. The venomous snake would become stronger. Stronger, 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 and stronger. Chun Mumun Master. Therefore, I had no complaints or worries about stepping down here. The goblins would do just fine. The Black Dragon Master, the Crusader, the Sword Saint, and of course the Chun Mumun Master will splendidly complete the climb up the remaining, up to the 40th floor, and eventually, up to the 50th floor. Take care. See you next time. As I was about to turn around after saying that, Liao Fan, the venomous snake shouted. Huh? My name is Liao Fan. The venomous snake glared at me. It's neither a pseudonym nor a nickname, Liao Fan is my name. Got it? Liao Fan. Next time, I'll call you by your name, and you'll call me by mine. Don't forget. At that moment, pure white light began to envelop us. Stage forfeit. You have forfeited the stage clearing of the 36th floor. Enveloped in white light, nothing could be seen. Not just me, but my family members, including Aberka, Sylvia Evanale, Kim Yul, Estelle, 4 demon lords, and the cult members were gradually disappearing in the white light. You crazy bastard! Then, from below, an Oni pointed his middle finger at me. His horns were broken, and his body was battered, but his eyes were unwaveringly staring at me. So, I also quietly raised my middle finger in response. Only another crazy person would look into the eyes of a crazy person. What? You son of a bitch, I'll really see you later. When we meet later, you'll see. Just as the venomous snake frowned. You will be transferred to a temporary space. The transfer finally occurred. And our consciousness was cut off. Chapter 252. Independence 1. Shwa-ea. An oddly draining sound echoed in my ears, but the scenery before my eyes was indescribably divine. Starting with a halo that wrapped around my head, the light then covered my neck, shoulders, and arms, and eventually cascaded around legs and feet like silk and spread in all directions. Those lights are probably some kind of skill. If that was the case then, whose life did they contain? With a slightly nostalgic feeling, I quietly watched the silk-like light disperse. Giving up. That's absurd. I couldn't stand watch. The lady's familiar face popped out of the ground with a pop. Not only did the sound effect seem tired, but the background was also tired. A hole appeared in the ground, and from there, she emerged with a grunt. Was this supposed to be a ghost? Had the horror film industry experienced a recession, forcing her to find work in a comedy film? How unfortunate. What the hell are you thinking? Why would you give up here? The lady who walks through the mirage. She was both the pillar supporting the tower and the daughter of the tower master. The girl who probably held the greatest power in the tower aside from the tower master was venting her stress by swinging the pillow she usually carried. That must have been a mistake, right? Huh? Our Death King, you're just pretending to give up and planning something else, right? This sister here trusts you. Now, tell me what it is. No. I said calmly. I'm really giving up. What? Sue. The lady exploded. This is like spilling the cooked rice. What are you doing? After you've taken such great care in raising and pampering those goblin race kids. Now, the goblins finally have a chance to unite the continent for real. But why are you giving up? Those kids don't want it. Huh? I sat down on a white chair. This space, where only white spreads to the horizon, is surprisingly convenient. If I think it would be nice if a chair appeared here, it will immediately appear. As I sat down on the chair, as if it had been waiting for it, a teacup of black tea appeared as well. I picked up the tea and sniffed its fragrance. It was a truly refined peach black tea. If I were to make a comparison, it tasted like a Lipton iced tea that had received a knighthood, devoted itself to service for 3 generations, led a major battle to victory with its 3rd-generation descendant, before finally being formally ennobled. Lowering my head, I tasted the tea. I wonder when my food metaphors will become more refined. Sigh. Don't sigh, lady. Or else I'll want to sigh too. Had she regained her noble dignity after seeing my petit bourgeois attitude? Furrowing her brows, the lady sat down across from me. From the way her shoulders drooped, it seemed she had put off scolding me for a moment. Well, it will get more refined in time, won't it? When I was young, I was as moved the first time I tried pizza, as if I had eaten 3 tonkatsu, but when I got older and ate spicy fried chicken for the first time, I was just as shocked as if I had eaten 5 pizzas. Lady, so you have tonkatsu, pizza, and spicy fried chicken in your world too. MHM. So now, my basic unit of taste is spicy fried chicken. My taste buds have really become more refined compared to when I was a child. It's truly a refined taste. Indeed, as expected of a noble from the kingdom. No, should I say of a pillar of the tower? As someone who had lived a life above the clouds like a princess, it was probably impossible for her to imagine a life like mine, who could count how many tegbaki I was given on the street. I was having the same thought at the time. Hugging her pillow, the lady spoke. But still, the most delicious thing is the soybean paste stew cooked personally by Mom. So there was soybean paste stew too. MHM. That alone has a special taste that can't be expressed even with several spicy fried chickens. It is literally the taste of memories. That's why I still ask her to cook it for me from time to time. I understand. I often think about the rice mixed with fried egg, sesame oil, and soy sauce that the director used to give me to eat. In fact, I asked for it several times before challenging the 31st floor. If my family members had been present, Estelle would have asked, "Does the tower master cook soybean paste stew?" Sylvia would have inquired, "Is the lady's family really noble?" And Kim Yul would have scolded, "Make something like egg rice yourself, family head. Don't you have hands or feet? Stop exploiting my friend." But none of that happened. The fact that I only now revealed that only the lady and I were sitting in this place, and not the family members, could be called a metaphorical device. Crazy bastard. Shiny falls into deep silence and sympathizes with the Sword Emperor. As always, let's just ignore those two. In any case, this was the time when the lady and I, who had lived in completely different economic classes, dramatically agreed. Suddenly, I felt slightly dizzy. The half-divine eye that I activated when facing the venomous snake. Suddenly, it flickered in front of my eyes without any warning. I was helplessly sucked into a daydream before I could refuse. Baby. A feeling as if spying on someone's past through their trauma. This one's daughter. It was a dark basement.
So?
Jung, who had not yet become the tower master, was looking after someone with a face she had never shown before. It was a small child. Though much smaller than now, I recognized her as the lady who walks through the mirage. This one's beloved daughter. The person who would become the Lord of Mansang and the goddess of the tower caressed the child's cheek. HNG. Let's go home. Let's sleep, Mom. And the girl, who was not yet the lady who walks through the mirage, this stage's administrator, caressed her cheek as well. I stared blankly at the daydream. The place where mother and daughter caressed each other's cheeks was a holy place. Therefore, it felt like no one should dare approach it. In the eyes of the tower master looking down at her daughter, there was only benevolence, a benevolence that somehow made one want to cry just from watching. That was probably one of the true faces of God. God and her daughter held hands and went somewhere. That was it. In the daydream shown by the half-divine eye, I couldn't see where the two were going or why they said, "Let's go home." Just as the two figures climbed a staircase and left the dark basement. Tuck. The daydream was cut off. I blinked my eyes. Reality continued where the dream was cut off. As I was saying, that's why I'm pretty good at cooking too, you know? The lady who walks through the mirage chattered excitedly. My cooking would probably be rated EX rank. There's no rank higher than EX grade. Anyway, I inherited Mom's touch. Now, if I were to make spicy fried chicken with that touch instead of soybean paste stew, it becomes the flavor of memories. Death King, it will be a revolutionary flavor. A novel titled The Lady Who Cooks would probably have about 200 volumes of a grand journey. Not realizing I had been daydreaming, the lady proudly boasted. Reflected in the lady's eyes, I was deeply puzzled. It wasn't just the terrifying revolutionary taste plan that shocked me. I pondered the phenomenon that had just been shown to me. Is this also a fragment of the trauma possessed by the Tower Master? For
So?
Jung, her entire life is nothing but trauma. She collected not only her own trauma but also those of others, and even created countless parallel worlds under the assumption that, if something else had happened. In each parallel world,
So?
Jung saved someone, died, was tortured, or was slaughtered. All those memories are now hidden within me. Apparently, the conjecture I had while confronting the venomous snake was correct. Now too. The amount of information was so enormous that I can't consciously perceive it. Like this time, occasionally, it would appear unconsciously, like a dream. Troublesome. Perhaps I would see a scene from the future that would happen decades later, or an event that happened hundreds of years ago in a world that has nothing to do with me. No. Or maybe I'll see a hypothetical world like that world where
So? Ha!
was with
So?
Jung. What should I call it, instead of daydream? I can see why she tried so hard to dissuade me back then. A bitter smile formed in my heart. When I declared that I would see the Tower Master's trauma, the Tower Master desperately tried to dissuade me. She offered other gifts or rewards, and begged me not to look at her trauma. Please. You will break. That was how the Tower Master pleaded. Now, I feel like I understood the meaning of that warning a little. I took a sip of the ultra-evolved version of Lipton iced tea and looked at the lady. Lady. Huh? What is it? Do you want to taste sometime? Sorry, Death King. To do that, you would need to first convince me with your own cooking. In other words, I am the ultimate king in a cooking manhwa. When you struggle to create your best dishes, I will easily surpass it, expanding your worldview. No, the lady really loves her mother. The lady paused for a moment. A smile formed on her lips after a short while. I love Mom. It was a smile without any hesitation. You were born as the daughter of God. Have you never felt burdened or anything like that? Why? Because, usually in clichés, people would say, I wanted to be born in an ordinary family. Ahaha. What's that? Fiddling with her teacup, the lady laughed. Well, fine. Originally, I was going to ask about why you gave up, but for now, I'll indulge your curiosity. How does it actually feel? To live as the daughter of God? Being Mom's child makes me incredibly happy. The lady beamed. But there's one error in the question you asked, Death King. Questions like, if I were born in an ordinary family, I would be a little happier, don't apply to me, no, to any of my mother's children. Huh? We are all children who could only be born to our mother. I tilted my head, not understanding what she meant. The lady sipped her tea and looked at me thinly over her teacup. It's hard to understand all at once, right? Then imagine this. Next to the teacup was a glass jar filled with sugar cubes. The lady opened the lid of the jar and picked up the top sugar cube with her slender fingers. When born, there is a certain, special, human who will inevitably commit massacres. The lifted sugar cube slowly came out of the jar. No matter which world they are born in, this person will be the same. The sugar cube was moved over the teacup and dropped with a tuck. They destroy people, set them afire, ruin countries, and shatter continents. The sugar cube dissolved in the tea, swirling around. In any world, any family, and under any parents, this doesn't change. This person is truly a special being in that sense. That was a wish I once held for.
Yo. So? Ha!
If possible, I'd hoped that.
Yo. So? Ha!
Was an unforgivable demonic being whose existence was wrong from birth or even before he was born. No one can change this person's mind. No one can make this person understand love. No one can convince or persuade this person why the world is better off as it is now rather than being destroyed. The lady brought the teacup to her lips. By the time the teacup was placed back on the table, I had already anticipated the conclusion and felt chills from the conclusion I had guessed. My back felt cold. I think there are 24 such, special, beings in the whole world. The lady grinned broadly. And Mom has 24 children. Well, I'm the eldest among them. In the kingdom Death King visited, I'm called Beck.
So?
Young. Really? My younger siblings are the most troublesome. I remained silent. Unconsciously, I muttered the motto this tower's master always recited. There are no humans in this world that are born wrong. Right. Clap. The lady lightly clapped her hands. Our mom is a bit silly, isn't she? Anyway, she only gathered the children who would have been born wrong, and made them her own children. And she taught love to all of us. The lady winked playfully. But that was the limit. The limit. We now know the emotion of love. But we only love our mom. Our scales are very different from other people, so even if we hang the entire world on one side of the scale and our mom on the other, Mom would easily outweigh it. The world would be almost less than a feather. I see. In other words, it was the exact opposite of my relationship as a dad with the goblin race. MHM. The lady in front of me, the daughter of God. For example, the reason I don't tear down this tower or other towers right now is simply because Mom asked me not to. They were completely dependent on their parent. The lady, who was in a completely different parent-child relationship from me, smiled brightly. Don't worry. Even if we sometimes playfully disobey our mom's request, we won't really do anything to make her sad. There are a few crazy ones, but they're not allowed to enter the tower, so don't worry. So what was it? Right. Your forfeiture. Why did you forfeit, Death King? There were only 2 or so steps left for the goblins to conquer the continent. It doesn't make sense to forfeit there, right? I calmed my heart. Perhaps just now, the lady was unaware of her expression. The moment she said, I could tear down the tower, her eyes. No, never mind. Who would benefit from manifesting an evil spirit? There was no need to release the curse sealed in silence with my mouth. The lady is the one who manages the stage. I am the one who climbs up the stages. For now, this relationship is enough. As I said, those kids didn't like it. Those kids? You mean the goblin race didn't like it? That's the reason you forfeited? Yes. I nodded. We offered the goblins our help. Not just in anything, but in war. In a war zone where people often die, who wouldn't want help? Nevertheless, the goblins flatly refused, saying, this is our business. The children have already started paving their own way. The things that happen there, the mistakes, even the deaths, those children already think they can and must handle it themselves. And they have the skills to do so. I smiled as I thought of the chairman of the Fire River Council in this era, who had responded to Ubaruka with something along the lines of, stay out of our business. They've grown up. Now I shouldn't interfere with those children. Of course, not interfering could cause more damage. It would be sad and frustrating. But as long as those goblin children don't ask for help first, I will just watch over them. Thanks to luck and skill, I managed to succeed in raising the goblin race to be one of the top tribes on the continent. However, that didn't mean I want to say or hear things like, this is all thanks to me for raising you, or, you should worship me as God. Up to here. My mission to guide the children from outside their world ends here. The goblins have stood on the ground with their own 2 feet. They had made it clear that they didn't need more than their own arm strength to defeat the enemy in front of them and that they didn't need to rely on the shoulder of a god to reach their destination. So, the only thing that God could do was to step back and watch over them. But still. Aren't you worried or curious at all? The lady playfully flapped her pillow. For example, what kind of disasters will strike in the remaining layers? What will happen to the one remaining evolution of the goblin race? What is the true nature of the postponed rewards? To answer you, I already know the identity of the remaining layers. Of course I did. Before my regression, I had seen.
Yo! So,
Clear up to the 40th floor. Especially from the 37th floor, which was called the World Quest. As long as it's no longer topical missions, the content won't deviate much from what I knew. I also know about the rewards. I once told my tower companions that the fact that the rewards for clearing the layers are not revealed is itself a mystery. This mystery would be revealed when the 40th floor is cleared. Moreover, because of that, I'm not worried that I won't be able to meet the goblins that have gone through their final evolution. I spoke with confidence. I, the Death King, will forfeit the 36th floor. The lady who walks through the mirage. And soon, I will once more start climbing the tower and rescue your mother, as I promised earlier. I bowed. So, please. Please allow me to make those children independent. A long silence followed. The lady looked at me and sighed. Staring blankly. Suddenly, the scent of black tea subsided, and the warmth of the black tea disappeared completely. After several minutes of staring at each other while hiding the sound of our heartbeats, the lady slowly opened her lips. All right. The lady smiled bitterly. Before me, the goblins have become independent. Together with that quiet lament, the voice of the tower announced. Stage forfeit. The Death King has forfeited the 36th floor stage. The lady who walks through the mirage acknowledges the Death King's forfeiture. Now, children. From now on, it's your era. Chapter 253. Independence, 2. Would you like me to transfer you to Babylon on the first floor? Or, no. I'd like to wait here. I answered while putting down my posh Lipton black tea. The lady smiled slightly. Okay, fine. I'll even add in a camera as a service. With a clap of the lady's hands, a vast hologram unfolded in the air. Displayed on the screen were the goblins and Oni. I could look at any city I wanted, and I could quickly scroll far away from the city and see the entire continent. This is amazing. MHM. You can also set the speed. 10x speed, 100x speed, 1000x speed, and 10,000x speed are all possible, so watch as you please. Thank you. That's how we watched the flow of the world. On the screen, the goblin warriors waved their arms and roared. Full charge. Surprisingly, they were fighting a burqa. Ugger. Shibboleth asterisk ancestor. We refused your help. Asterisk, aka fucking. Oh haha. A burqa guffawed mightily. Right, you did say that. However, the Oni wanted to use the power of the gods to fight you. In a subject where you would be devastated so thoroughly that you wouldn't even be able to put up proper resistance, do you think you could overcome it? That was also our trial to endure. You talk well. However, the arguments of weaklings are nothing more than empty talk. A burqa roared while holding his axe. If you could have overcome it yourselves. If you didn't need my help. Ugger, then you motherfuckers. A burqa smiled. The smile was the same as when he once blocked the way to the snail race's holy land. Fight me, win, and prove that your words are not a bluff. Sparks practically flew out of the eyes of the goblin warriors. We want to. While the goblins were in the midst of taking their graduation exam, the defeated Oni were also facing their god. Sorry. The venomous snake bowed his head to those he led. The tasks of God for God. The tasks of man for man. Since I was helping you as God, I should have revealed that I was God. Dash. From the moment I failed to maintain this common courtesy, I failed both as a god and as a warrior. I can't believe I still ended up losing in this subject. I'm really ashamed. The venomous snake scratched the back of his head. A clumsy smile appeared on the corner of his lips before evaporating like dew. Sorry, I just... Tears flowed from his eyes till his eye patch was unable to stop them. I could have done better. Only a handful of Oni managed to survive the burning grave. They were still a mess. All of them had something broken or cut. However, they did not put the blame on their god. Raise your head, God. You did your best. The Oni shouted loudly. We haven't been destroyed yet. Our horns haven't been broken yet. Some of them even smiled. We've lost countless times already. We're used to losing. Gahaha. God should get used to it too. If you take care of us with such a soft, tofu-like attitude, we will directly explode and ascend to heaven. It was neither self-ridicule or self-torment. It was just the consolation they offered to their God, which was powerful proof that their jokes were not to ridicule him, but to comfort him. You guys. The venomous snake muttered. His face was a mess of tears and snot from his runny nose. The Oni bowed to their God. We have many shortcomings. This means we have many things to improve. We can win. So please guide us so that we can do it. Please guide us, God. The venomous snake was silent for a while. Then, he clenched his fist and shouted. Shit. That's natural. Trust and follow me, children. The Oni responded loudly. Yes. On one side, the goblins, who had left the arms of God, fought against the proudest hero in their history, and on the other, to the God who had appeared in front of them, the Oni vowed to make a comeback. At that moment, my heart was cut into pieces by the contrast. This is amazing. Whoa, you startled me. As I was immersed in the screen, I suddenly heard a voice beside me. Not the lady's voice, but a very familiar voice. Black hair with a hint of indigo rippled. A woman dressed in black clothes as dark as her hair was excitedly looking at the hologram. My friend. The Black Dragon Master. I shouted in astonishment. Black Dragon Master? No. Anastasia. How did you suddenly come here? I called her. With an ahem, the lady who walks through the mirage cleared her throat. It was the face of a child asking to be praised after accomplishing a good deed. You called her? MHM. She was eliminated from this mission. No, what happened? When I asked this, the Black Dragon Master shrugged. I went bankrupt. By bankrupt. Literally that, my race points fell into the negatives. When the vampires and dream demons were combined, I had no choice but to borrow money even though I knew I couldn't pay it back. Dream demon race. I couldn't help but blink at the name I hadn't heard in a long time. You met the dream demons again. MHM. Those guys grew up quite a bit. What exactly happened? You'll see for yourself soon. More importantly, you guys. Hurry up and come over here and sit down. You guys? When I looked around after hearing those words, I saw that it was not just the Black Dragon Master but also the Crusader, Heretic Questioner and Count that had been summoned. It was really before I knew it. As you've guessed, I called them. After all, wouldn't everyone be curious about what happened to their races? The lady cleared her throat again. It seemed that she had created this place with the intention of doing this. Thank you for calling me. I was worried about how those mermaid children were doing. The Crusader walked up to the sofa and sat with a sigh. Meanwhile, the Count climbed onto the back of the sofa and curled up. They should be fine. Didn't they have a firm hold on logistics? They're also on good terms with the goblins, so it should be fine as long as they stick to maritime logistics and don't be greedy. It's been a long time since I've seen it, but the Count's special ability was metamorphosis. That was a cat metamorphosis. Therefore, it was a cat, not the Count, that was curled up on the back of the sofa. After all, only if the Count was a master of yoga could such a sight be remotely possible. Long time no see. Master. The Heretic Questioner hopped up and put his arm on my sofa. For a moment, I looked at the scene that had quickly become a social gathering for the top-ranked hunters. The lady delivered cup noodles and Lipton iced tea to the hunters, and the hunters consumed them while saying how good they were. It's chaos. Era, how did you know? Huh? This time when I went back to Babylon, I searched for all the heretic forces lurking within the 10,000 temple. Ahaha, I had been confident that I'd managed the personnel with care, but there were still so many. Among them, I destroyed a secret organization called Chaos.
Uh,
No. Not that. I meant that this situation in itself is chaos. Everyone. Look carefully. As always, the only hero capable of quelling the confusion was the Black Dragon Master, Anastasia. Eyes twinkling, Anastasia pointed at the screen. The Oni challenged the Fire River Council of the Goblins to a duel. Driven by the Black Dragon Master's heat, we all looked at the screen together. In the time I'd taken my eyes off, a lot of time had passed in the world. It was unclear just how many years had passed, but it should have been at least a century, as the mountain peak that Aburka had torn off had become a tourist attraction surrounded by a fence. In a world where that much time had passed, the process of 7 Oni being beaten out of shape one after the other by the president of the Fire River Council continued plainly. Aren't they getting wrecked, Anastasia? That's not the point. Seriously, Death King. Gongja. Why are you only stupid at times like this when you have such a good head? No, it's the other way around. This bastard is a dumbass by nature, but he's only smart when he's acting. Beside me, Behurayang added a couple words, but fortunately, I was the only one that could hear his words, so his distortion of facts did not spread to those gathered there. Meanwhile, Anastasia continued. What's important is that there are people other than the goblins in the Fire River Council. Look, Kim Gongja. Those Oni are attending as members of the council. Members of the council? The Fire River Council is a council for the goblin race. How could Oni? Just as the two of us were discussing the scene on the screen, I suddenly felt that the reactions around me were strange. What's wrong with you all? When I expressed my doubts, the cat count, who had been staring blankly at me, spoke in a bewildered manner. No. It's just that, if I didn't hear wrong, just now, I thought I heard the Black Dragon Master and the Death King call each other by your names and not your titles. You didn't hear wrong. I nodded. Anastasia and I are friends. Have you ever seen a look of astonishment on a cat? At least for me, this was my first time. Her mouth fell open and her eyes stretched wide, but it wasn't such a pretty expression that I would want to see it twice. That's right. Kim Gongja and I are friends. The Black Dragon Master added oil. No, it might be more accurate to say that she threw over a cucumber and shocked the cat even more. We decided to call each other by our first names. We even wrote a friendship contract based on that. The cat count's back arched upwards at a bizarre angle. Friendship contract. Are you paying for friendship or something? Count. Money can't buy friends. You're trying to destroy most of my friendships, aren't you? In any case, that's not important right now. At this point, while the cat count was immersed in the sorrow of losing friends, the other hunters were still in shock. Anastasia pointed towards the screen as if nothing happened. As you said, Gongja, 7 Oni qualified to be members of the Fire River Council, which should belong exclusively to the goblins. And they challenged the council with the pride of the Oni race. Indeed. I folded my arms. Instead of waging a large-scale war, they chose to duel in the Fire River Council. But the interesting thing is that's just the beginning, Kim Gongja, chuckling, pulled up a hologram. It was just the laugh of a close friend, without any tricks or ulterior motives. I had gotten used to it to a certain extent, but that didn't seem to be the case for the other hunters a few steps away, as they were still looking at us with unfamiliar gazes. No, look. The hologram displayed by Anastasia showed the seats in the council. The majority of them were green, which indicated that they belonged to the goblins, but here and there were splashes of pink. The elves. The eyes of the cat count, who was the god of the elves, widened. MHM. That's right. Death King, in the past, weren't you the one that brought the elves into the fireplace that belonged exclusively to the goblins? It can be said that this is the result. Sonia. The elf child who wanted to become a fire that danced in a dark cave. This is a guess, but there was probably a renaissance in fireplace after that child, which also caused changes in the Fire River Council. Even if they're an elf, as long as they are good at fireplace or strong enough, they would be recognized as an official member of the Fire River Council. Indeed, so that's why the Oni can. MHM. Since then, the Fire River Council was no longer the exclusive property of the goblins. Anastasia's pointing out was right. As time passed, in the seats that were predominantly green, other colors began to gradually increase. This is probably a mermaid. Squirm. The cat count squeezed in between us. Climbing precariously on my right shoulder and Anastasia's left shoulder, the cat count looked down at the hologram of the seats. A mermaid? Now, in your country, no, in the goblins' country, the economy and military are completely separated. The economy is monopolized by the elves, and the military is monopolized by the goblins. And in the cultural industry, which is represented by the fireplace, the two races cooperate. However, the mermaids are the ones that transport goods along the river and make capital. The crusader, who had approached at some point, spoke. The count nodded. The mermaids are born with an excellent abilities in logistics transport. After the discovery of the new continent, they are capable of not just coastal voyages but also continental voyages. The larger the goblins' country, the more goods the elves can handle, and the more products and the higher the role of the mermaids. In other words, the mermaids' voices can no longer be ignored. If they were to go on strike, logistics in the country would be ruined. The mermaids probably also sent some talented warriors to become members of the Fire River Council, marked by blue. I thought. To sum it up, the Fire River Council, which was originally created by the goblins. Anastasia took over from my words. Due to the nature of the goblins, who are non-combatants apart from when they need to fight, virtually anyone can join, regardless of race. Finally, the count licked the back of her hand and purred. First, the elves, who were the closest to them economically and culturally, began to enter the council. Next, the mermaids who developed an advanced logistics system. And now, even the Oni can send warriors to represent them. We were silent. We looked into each other's eyes. Anastasia's eyes were wide with excitement. The cat count nodded lightly, as if accepted Anastasia's enthusiasm. The crusader crossed her arms. A world council. A unified council in which every race participated. Such a future was unfolding before our eyes.